بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد inshallah continuing with the chapter on the destructiveness of sins by in the book الداء والدواء by Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah. He continues قال الحسن رحمه الله إن الفتنة والله ما هي إلا عقوبة من الله عز وجل على الناس. He said, Hassan, may Allah be pleased with him, says that the fitna or trials and tribulation is a punishment from Allah. He swore by Allah that it's a punishment from Allah upon the people. Just a side point, some of the scholars, they distinguish between al-ibtila wal-fitna. And they said, ibtila li raf'i darajat wal-fitna uquba. So the ibtila is a trial that raises people in ranks, and the fitna is a tribulation as a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you find sometimes, like as we said, that sins can cause harm, physical harm or destruction from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But sometimes we say people get hardships or harm that were good people. So the scholars, they distinguish, saying that if the people are upon sin and transgressions and a punishment comes, that is that's uquba, basically a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if a person's a good person and he has a trial or tribulation, like he doesn't have much sins at all, but a trial and tribulation comes to him, that's kind of for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise him up in ranks. So that's how they distinguish between the two. And a lot of scholars say that for the individual, if something bad happens to him, look at it as if it was a sin from yourself. Like, don't look at yourself so high that, I'm a awesome person and I don't have any sins whatsoever, so this is a test from Allah to make because I'm getting higher ranks. Like the mu'min, he should look at it as a punishment from Allah, so he can check himself and stop or look over, take account to himself any of the sins that he's doing, so he can become a better person. And for other people, if a trial and tribulation comes to them, look at for them as if it's raf' al-darajat from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Have husn al-dhan for them. Like if you see a good brother or a good believer that you think is a nice person or a good person on Islam, and something harm comes to him, look at it as if inshallah Allah is giving him a way to be raised in ranks. So it's always better to be harder upon yourself than the others inshallah. And then he goes on, وذكر الإمام أحمد وغيره عن قتادة قال موسى يا رب أنت في السماء ونحن في الأرض فما علامة غضبك من رضائك قال إذا استعملت عليكم خياركم فهو علامة رضائي عنكم وإذا استعملت عليكم شراركم فهو علامة سخطي عليكم. He said, Musa, it's a narration from the children of Israel that Imam Ahmad radiallahu anhu rahimahullah reported, that says that Musa said, "O my Lord, you are in the sky and we are upon the earth. What is the sign of your anger or your pleasure?" He said, if I put in charge of you good people, like the best people, that's a sign of my pleasure upon you. And if I put in charge of you the worst of the people or the evil people, that's a sign of my anger upon you. And also, like the Prophet ﷺ said, كَمَا تَكُونُوا تُوَالُوا عَلَيْكُمْ, as you are, those in charge will be placed upon you in similar fashion. So if a people are evil in general, Allah will put evil people in charge of them, and they'll get more into transgression and more evil. And if are really good, like I said before last week, it starts with the individual and the family, and you build society to make it better. Allah will provide us with better leaders inshallah. وذكر أيضا من حديث ابن عمر رضي الله عنه برفعه والذي نفسي بيده لا تقوم الساعة حتى يبعث الله أمراء كذب ووزراء فجر وعوانا خون وعرفاء ظلم وقراء فسق سماهم سماء الرهبان وقلوبهم أمتن من الجيف أهواؤهم مختلفة فيفتح الله لهم فتنة غبراء مظلمة فيتكها فيتهاكون فيها. So he says that Umar radiallahu anhu, Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu reported a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ swears by the one in whose soul is in Allah's hand, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the hour will not be established until Allah sends forth leaders that are liars, ministers that are corrupt, and employees that are betraying their trust, and they will like be enveloped with injustice, and the qurra, the people that are reciting, sometimes the reciters of the Quran, become like evil people, and they have the signs of ruhban, like outward appearance, like they're monks or pious, whatever, but their hearts are more rotten than the corpse. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when these signs appear, He sends down a fitna or a punishment that will overtake the people. And He said, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي مُحَمَّدٍ بِيَدِهِ لِيَنْقَضَى الْإِسْلَامِ غُرْوَةً عُرْوَةً حَتَّى لَا يُقَالُ اللَّهُ اللَّهُ. And the Prophet ﷺ swore also that Islam will disappear little by little until even Allah is not going to be said anymore. لَتَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَلَتَنْهَوْنَ عَلَى الْمُنْكَرِ أَوْ لِيَسَلَّطَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ شَرَارَكُمْ فَيُسُومَنَكُمْ سُوءَ الْعَذَابِ. You will enjoin the good and forbid the evil, or Allah will place upon you an evil people and send upon you a punishment. He'll talk more about al-amr bil-ma'ruf wa nahy al-munkar, the encouraging of the good and forbidding of the evil, but just to give a brief background upon it, inshallah, for the benefit, the commanding of the good and the forbidding of the evil is wajib or obligatory upon our ummah. As Allah Azza wa Jalla said in Surah Ali Imran, كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ. You are the best of nations, that you encourage the good and you forbid the evil. وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ, and you have belief in Allah. So this is the characteristic of the believing nation: belief in Allah, encouraging the good and forbidding the evil. Also, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, مَنْ رَأَى مِنْكُمْ مُنْكَرًا فَلْيُغَيِّرُ بِيَدِهِ فَإِنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِلِسَانِهِ فَإِنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِقَلْبِهِ وَذَلِكَ أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ. Also showing that it's obligatory to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever sees an evil amongst you, he should change it with his hand if he's able to do so. If not, if he's not able to do that, he should speak against it. If he's not able to do that, he should hate it in his heart, and that's the weakest form of faith. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala connected al-amr bil-ma'rufi wa nahy al-munkar with al-falah, success in the dunya and akhirah. He says, وَلْتَكُنْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. There should be a nation amongst you, or people amongst you, that encourage the good and they forbid the evil. And those are the successful ones, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. So the characteristic of enjoining the good and forbidding the evil leads to success, al-falah. Also, that's the basis of tawheed. When we say la ilaha illallah, we have the negation and the affirmation. So we deny and we forbid all those things that are associated or worshipped other than Allah, and we affirm and we call to worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. So tawheed is the most important form of amr bil-ma'rufi wa nahy al-munkar, and it's the job of all the anbiya, of the prophets alayhim salatu wassalam. That's their job, to call people to good and forbid the evil, and the greatest good you can call to is tawheed. Also, Allah Azza wa Jalla says in Surah At-Tawbah, describing the believers, وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَلَى الْمُنْكَرِ وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ وَيُطِيعُونَ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ أُولَٰئِكَ سَيَرْحَمُهُمُ اللَّهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. The faithful men, the believers, believing men and believing women, they are like companions to one another. They encourage the good and they forbid the evil, and they maintain the prayer and they give zakat, and they obey Allah and His Messenger. It is they whom Allah has granted His mercy for, and indeed Allah is Almighty, All-Wise. So this characteristic of joining the good and forbidding the evil, even some scholars, there's some narrations actually that support it, that it's a pillar of faith. Min arkan al-Islam, right? And in this ayah it shows more proof of that, because Allah is connecting it with salat and zakat. He's putting amr al-ma'rufi wa nahy al-munkar. And having this characteristic in joining the good and forbidding the evil, inshallah, is a sign that you don't have hypocrisy. Because Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, الْمُنَافِقُونَ وَالْمُنَافِقَاتِ بَعْضُهُمْ مِنْ بَعْضٍ يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمُنْكَرِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمَعْرُوفِ. That the hypocrites, they are like the female and male hypocrites are companions one to another. They encourage evil and they forbid the good. So this is a sign of hypocrisy. And the mu'min wal-mu'minah has the opposite. They encourage the good and they forbid the evil. And this is one of the best forms of ibadat that one can do. It's the job of the messengers, alayhim salatu wassalam. It's one of the best ways to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, in the tafsir of in Surah Maryam, Isa alayhi salam, he said, وَجَعَلْنِي مُبَارَكًا أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ وَأَوْصَانِي بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ مَا دُمْتُ حَيًّا. وَجَعَلْنِي مُبَارَكًا. Many of the mufassirun, they say that, in the literal translation, it means, oh Allah, make me blessed, right? In the tafsir of this ayat, many of the mufassirun, they say that this means that he should know to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. So, al-amru bil-ma'rufi wal-nahy al-munkar, also with falah, it has barakah, blessings in it. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, al-amru bil-ma'rufi sadaqah, wal-nahy al-munkar sadaqah. That encouraging the good is sadaqah, a charity, and forbidding the evil is a charity. And this is one of the best charities you can give, because you're preventing someone from evil and you're bringing him closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What better gift can you give to somebody? Also, kind of further explaining from the last week, how we said, when there's like a pious person and Allah is going to destroy the village, and the angels asked, what about this pious person? He said, start with him. And we said, why? He said, because he didn't have that hatred for the evil that was around him, and he didn't try to prevent the evil. So there's one narration, the scholars say, some of them say that's Hasan, that the Prophet ﷺ said, al-muslih is better than, one muslih is better than 1,000 salih. Because al-muslih, he's the one who yuslih al-akhareen. His benefit is for himself and other people. He calls people to good and he forbids people from evil. Whereas the salih, he's good for himself but not for society. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will send his adab down even if there's salihin there, but they're not ordering the good or forbidding the evil. However, he will prevent his adab from coming down if there is one muslih that's calling to good and forbidding the evil. So it's a very important characteristic to have, inshaAllah. And also befitting in this time to talk about some of the requirements for al-amr bil-ma'rufi wa nahy al-munkar. There are certain requirements. So the first requirement, that the person that's doing this, that's ordering the good or forbidding the evil, he has to have knowledge of what he's prohibiting or what he's commanding. Like an ignorant person can't go and try to tell people what to do. If he has no idea this is halal or haram, it's forbidden for him to talk about this affair. Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, قُلْ إِنَّمَا حَرَّمَ رَبِّيَ الْفَوَاحِشَ مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَمَا بَطَنَ وَالْإِثْمَ وَالْبَغْيِ بِغَيْرِ حَقٍّ وَأَن تُشْرِكُوا بِاللَّهِ مَا لَمْ يُنَزِّلْ بِهِ سُلْطَانًا وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Say, my Lord has forbidden indecencies, the outward and the inward, and the sin and the undue aggression, and that you should ascribe to Allah partners for which He has not sent down any authority. And this is the point of the ayat, and that you should say upon Allah that which you do not know. And تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. He's putting it up there with shirk. So to command good or forbid evil, you have to have knowledge of that affair. And if you don't, you could be falling under this ayah. When people say this is halal or say this is haram, you're speaking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is sharia, this is legislation. So be 100% sure what you're calling to, that you know what you're calling to. Number two, in ordering the good and forbidding the evil, the person, he must know the person is doing wrong, or he's not doing the obligation he's supposed to be doing. Like there's not guesswork. You know for a fact this person is doing haram, and it's clear that he's doing haram. Then you can go and order the good or forbid the evil in that sense. But if you don't know, if you're guessing and you're assuming, you're not allowed to do that. Sometimes a person will see somebody and it's like a questionable situation, and right away, astaghfirullah, brother, haram. And maybe he's sitting with his sister, for example, in a restaurant, or his relative, or he's giving dawah or something like that, and people assume the worst and start saying, forbidding the evil or enjoining the good, but they have no knowledge of that person, what he's doing. The Prophet ﷺ, a man came into the masjid and he sat down, and the Prophet ﷺ, he asked him, did you pray 2 rak'ahs before you sat down? And then the man said no, and he said pray 2 rak'ahs. So he's the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it's in the masjid and he's giving the khutbah, but still he gave the man a chance to have a benefit of the doubt before enjoining the good. he asked him first to make sure, maybe he prayed 2 rakats, he didn't see them. So he asked him first, and then the man said he didn't, and then he ordered him to do such and such, right? That's how you have to be. You can't just assume the worst of somebody and tell him, haram or halal. You don't know if that person is really doing haram or halal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَقْفُوا مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. Do not follow that which you have no knowledge. So the first part, having knowledge of what is halal and haram. Number 2, knowing that person is actually doing something haram or he's not doing what is obligated upon him. And number 3, it does not result in a greater evil. So the story that's popular they give is with Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. Some of the Mongols, they had just conquered Iraq and they were getting drunk and drinking, and Ibn Taymiyyah was walking down the street with his companions, his students. And so the students asked him, why don't you forbid them from drinking wine? And he said, because their being busy with drinking wine is preventing them from slaughtering and spilling the blood of Muslims. So if I forbid them from drinking wine and they're awake and they go and kill Muslims, that's a worse evil, right? So when you're calling to good and forbidding the evil, it cannot lead to a greater evil. And that's also the proof in the Quran when Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, وَلَا تَسُبُّوا الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ فَيَسُبُّوا اللَّهَ عَدْوًا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. Don't curse the ones that are calling other than Allah, because they may curse Allah without knowledge. That act can lead to a greater evil. Or for example, say somebody, he smokes, and if he doesn't smoke, he'll drink wine. So if you know for sure you're forbidding him from smoking is going to lead him to drinking wine, then that's the lesser of 2 evils. So leave it be. And number 4, the 4th requirement. Also the funny story kind of that the Prophet ﷺ, when the Bedouin came to the masjid and he urinated, right? And the Sahaba, they all wanted to jump on him and beat him, and what kind of disrespect is this in the masjid of the Messenger ﷺ? And the Prophet ﷺ said, leave him, right? And he explained, because if he cut him off urinating, it would hurt him, physically, it's not healthy, right? So it can lead to a greater evil. Also, if you beat him or curse him, what kind of effect will that have for his Islam? He's a Bedouin, he came from traveling, he has to go, he doesn't know better. So the Prophet ﷺ explained to him, this is not a place for this, in a nice manner, and told him the right way to do things. And the Bedouin was like, Allah have mercy upon me and upon Muhammad and nobody else. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Allah's mercy is much wider than that, you cannot contain it. But the Bedouin was so happy how the Prophet ﷺ treated him. Imagine if they went and beat him, right? What kind of picture of Islam would he have? Right? It would have led to a greater evil. So always have the hikmah and the wisdom to know that when you're encouraging good or forbidding evil, that it will lead to a greater or a better situation, not a worse situation. And 4th, which is very important, is to have the niyyah of making islah and bringing people to goodness, not the niyyah of winning your argument. Many people, they want to call people to good or forbid evil just to prove a point that, I'm knowledgeable and you're not, right? And this way, it's a madkhal of shaitan. He'll be entering into niyyah and corrupting your good deed and turning it into a bad deed maybe. So your goal when you're giving nasiha or amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy al munkar is islah al khalq, the benefit or the goodness for the creation. And that's the job of the anbiya. We don't really care too much about nafs, I won the argument, or I proved him wrong, or I proved her wrong. No, you want goodness for them. If you know someone is really doing wrong and you care for that person, make dua, between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first. Ask Allah, please, guide this person to the right thing. Please Allah, let me give them the message in a good way so they can accept from me, right? And then go and talk to that person in a nice way and try to explain, if you really love that person. Not just, A'udhu billah, haram, 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 and then, start fighting and arguing and not having no benefit whatsoever. Some people, they get a little bit of knowledge in the deen and khalas asbahu mufti diyar. They become the religious sheikh and giving fatwas about everything. They know all the halal, haram now, khalas. Just a couple of months ago you were in the nightclubs. Now all of a sudden you're a mufti. La. Have some hikmah and wisdom and rahmah and understanding. This is one of the great lessons I learned from my some of my shuyukh, like sitting with them and how they gave da'wah and how they didn't look down upon other people that might not have been high in iman or new to the Islam. You know, they showed us how, you know, I remember one brother, he'd just become Muslim and he had you know, like some jewelry, earring and stuff like that. And some of the brothers were like, you know, astaghfirullah, it's haram, you know. And the Shaykh was like, you know, just chill out. He doesn't even know about the basics of the deen yet to start talking about his beard and his pants and his jewelry and all this other stuff. Let him learn about Islam first. And mashallah, his brother became one of the, you know, very knowledgeable brothers in Islam and a da'iyah basically. But if people had been harsh on him, maybe he would not have, you know, had the encouragement to practice Islam. And I remember a good companion, may Allah release him and make it easy for him. He's going through a tough situation, but he converted to Islam and he had a bunch of tattoos. And we had made Umrah or Hajj, I'm not sure which one at the time. And like Maskeen, every like couple minutes, someone's going to come to him and tell him like, you know, tattoos haram. And he's like, you know, he's trying to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He knows it's haram, khalas. After the 100th or 1000th time, he gets the point. Like, you know, alhamdulillah. So I just felt bad for him, but just use hikmah and have wisdom, and like I said, have the niyyah of islah al-khalq. You want the goodness for the person, to bring a person closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to love Allah, love the Messenger, love the deen. You don't want to be those who scare people away from the deen. Bashiru wa la tunaffiru. Bring the good tidings and don't scare people away. وَمَا كَانَ رِفْقُ فِي شَيْءٍ إِلَّا زَانُوا وَمَا نُزِعَ مِنْهُ إِلَّا شَانُوا. That gentleness is not in something except that it makes it beautiful, is not taken away from something except that it makes it ugly. So always try, inshallah, to have the character of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, rahmatan lil alameen, the mercy to the world, and see how he called people to Islam. Continuing with the book, في مسند وغيره من حديث عروة عن عائشة رضي الله عنها قالت دخل علي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وقد حفظه النفس فعرفت في وجهه أن قد حفظه شيء فما تكلم حتى توضأ وخرج فليسقط بالحجر فصعد المنبر فحمد الله وأثنى عليه ثم قال يا أيها الناس إن الله عز وجل يقول لكم مروا بالمعروف وانهوا عن المنكر قبل أن تدعوني فلا أجيبكم وتستنصروني فلا أنصركم وتسألوني فلا أعطيكم. He said, the Prophet ﷺ entered upon Aisha radiallahu anha, and she saw in his face like something was wrong, like he was very upset or very saddened. And you know, he made wudu and he went out immediately and he told the people, "Oh people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to you, encourage the good and forbid the evil before you call upon me, and I won't answer your call, or you ask me for help and I won't answer, or I won't help you." So it's very important to call to the good and forbid the evil. وقال من ترك الأمر بالمعروف والنهي عن المنكر مخافة من المخلوقين نزعت منه الطاعة ولو أمر ولده أو بعض مواليه لاستخف بحقه. He said, when a people or a person doesn't encourage the good or forbid the evil, Allah will take for him like the respect from the creation, to the point that no one's going to really pay him any due or any attention. Even his own kid is not going to listen to him. So this is one of the punishments, or one of the fitnas that come from not encouraging the good and forbidding the evil. Also, he said, if you do that fearing the people, like the Prophet ﷺ, he said, if you do something for the pleasure of Allah at the displeasure of the people, Allah will be pleased with you and He'll make the people pleased with you. But if you do something for the pleasure of the people or the displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will be displeased with you and He'll make the people displeased with you. So if you're encouraging good and forbidding evil, you don't fear except from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But of course, like we said earlier, you have to use hikmah. Like if you cannot physically change it or verbally change it, then hate it in your heart at least. You don't go to like a person who is maybe 6 foot, 250 pounds and a thug and violent and all that stuff, and forcibly try to tell him to do something, that you're doing something wrong, because it might result in a greater harm. But at least those that you have authority over, you can tell them not to do such and such or to do such and such, right? This is also from the requirements of Amr al-Ma'ruf wa Nahy al-Munkar, that you have to have sulta, basically that you should have some type of authority on it. And there's two extremes. Some people will say, like we said earlier, you have to have knowledge. So some people, if they're not, they don't think that they're a alim, that they can't do any amr ma'ruf nahi anil munkar. No. If you know, for example, salat is wajib, it's clear from the deen bid-durura, right? Everybody knows that. You can tell people, you should pray. Or you have authority over your children, for example, and they're doing something wrong in front of you. You can correct that, even though you're not a scholar. So, but if you don't have authority over somebody, then that's when the hadith comes into play. You can either do it, hate it, say something about it, or hate it in your heart at the very least. So we'll pause here and open the floor for either questions, if there's any, inshallah, and then if not, we can have like a discussion.
Yes, I have one question. You said something about al-amr bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar requires sulta. So does that mean if someone is seeing somebody doing something wrong, or they cannot correct them? I was a little confused on that point.
No, maybe I shouldn't have said requires, but if you see somebody doing something wrong, then if you have the ability to stop it, then that means that you have sulta, basically, so you can stop it. If you can't do it physically, stopping it verbally, if that can't happen, then at least you hate it in your heart. So it goes upon the strength or the capability of the individual. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Like, certain countries you can't go up to the rulers and try to change the system of the country, or you're going to get killed, for example. Right? So it takes hikmah and knowing the right and the wrong to do.
But that doesn't mean that if you see something wrong on the street and you want to fix it, you wait for an authority to come to fix it. You can fix it yourself.
If you're able to do so, yeah, and it doesn't lead to a greater evil, you can do it yourself, obviously, yeah. وإياكم.
So you mentioned how, as a mu'min, you should think of if something bad happens to you, think of it as a punishment. But how do you, isn't there like that also hadith that says like hajabana amri mu'min, when it goes like strange are the affairs of a believer. If you have something bad happen to you, you take it as a test, then you're rewarded for it. But if something good happens to you and you're grateful for it, then you're rewarded for it.
Yeah, it's not like a hadith, it's just a saying of some of the scholars. In Islam it's called ittiham al-nafs, like you always accusing yourself. That's why some of the best Sahaba, radiyallahu anhum, they used to say like they would be fearing hypocrisy from themselves, or they wouldn't feel comfortable if their one foot was in Jannah and the other one was out. I won't be comfortable that I'm going to Jannah. And this is the Sahaba, the best of the Sahaba, the best of the people after the Anbiya, right? So the scholars say in general, like if something happens to you, see it as a way, like a reminder from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that maybe I did something wrong, so I can get closer to Him and make tawbah and take account to myself. But if it happens to other people that are good, then you have like husn al-dhan for them, that maybe it's a test from Allah to like lift them up higher in rankings. So now, open discussion. I would suggest we could have, if anybody wants to talk about anything or any particular issue in detail. Somebody had mentioned relationships, so I'll ask you guys, what do you think is halal relationship or haram relationship between the opposite gender? That's the discussion point today. Unless you have another topic you want to talk about, somebody else wants to talk about. Alright, so the point of discussion is that other people can talk, inshallah. Anybody? Yeah, seriously. Well, I just wanted to have like a 10, 15 minutes for just discussion. Everybody wants to talk about anything in general, but one person asked in particular about relationships. Like, what is halal or haram relationships between the opposite sexes? It's an easy question. You can do any type of relationship. I know specifically the person meant the other relationships that are not, but you can discuss any relationship if you want. Are not permissible. I think that's what the person was referring to in general. So if we want to talk about that, adab and mu'amala. Maybe, yeah. Or everybody just close their eyes and we'll pass the microphone. So.
Yeah, so it's really simple. I mean, you have this idea of a mahram, right? So obviously your sister, your mother, these type of women that are in your family, you treat them very differently than you would, women that have to cover in front of you. So I think keeping like that boundary so defined for us, I think it's pretty easy to kind of see the extension of what other things you're not supposed to do with other women.
That's a good point, mashallah.
Alright, Baba, he said, so muharram, basically the relations of you cannot marry them, obviously, those you have certain ways to act with them as opposed to non-mahram, right? And there should be a boundary between those two. So there's two extremes. Like some people, I think they'll go to the one extent where there's no interaction whatsoever, not even saying salam, like the woman passes, it's like the plague is coming, and like it's too much, subhanAllah. And then the other extreme is like, hey sis, what's up, and buddy and touching and all this other stuff. That's going too far the other way. But have it cordial and have respect and think of it. Unfortunately, subhanAllah, like one of the imams was explaining Amr al-Ma'ruf wa Nahy al-Munkar, how the Prophet ﷺ, one of the Sahabis came to him and said, I want to commit fornication. And the Prophet ﷺ said, like, would you be happy with it for your sister or your mother, or and of course he hated it, and then that became the most hated thing to him. That was from the hikmah of the Prophet ﷺ. But one scholar made the point that you might ask a person that has a corrupt fitrah, and he might be like, yeah, it's okay, I don't mind. So you have to use the correct understanding to convey to the people in a way that they understand the best, to keep the relationships respectful. Is saying salam to brothers and sisters permissible? Yes. What's your proof? Brother, but what about a sister to a brother? Person in faith? Yeah. The hadith, the ayah is general. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you're greeted with the greeting, to return the greeting or something better. Also, Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah, he has a bab salam al-rijal ala nisa wa salam al-nisa ala rijal. The chapter of men saying salam to the women and women saying salam to the men. And he brings narrations that prove that point. So that's one of the best greetings, And the point is, like, you don't have to, you do it as the minimum or the minimum interaction, sufficient interaction basically you can say. Like, you keep it professional, especially with the opposite sex. You don't have to transgress the bounds. So if you have a reason to meet or a reason to talk, inshallah, that's fine. Just keep the respect and keep the proper hijab and the proper distance and the proper, mannerisms with each other. Always, sometimes, like, subhanAllah, I see certain brothers, certain sisters advertising things in social media that it's questionable, because one day you're going to get married, and say your husband sees those pictures or those actions that you're having with the opposite sex. It's all fun and games, and you think it's nothing harmful, but there's parameters that Islam has given us that we're supposed to respect for a reason. So for example, that picture, unfortunately, as we see recently, so much is preserved in social media, and it can come back to haunt a person, right? So be careful of how you interact with the opposite sex, and think also, sisters, for the husband, how would you like to see, if you saw your husband, having improper contact with another woman that's not his mahram, how would you feel if he comes to ask you for marriage, right? And the same thing with the brothers, like, if when they see sisters, or for the sisters, when they're doing certain acts that are photographed, and they're going to come back, and a person comes to marry you and he sees all this stuff, it might be damaging to your relationships. So just have that in mind, and forget about all the people, but think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first. Like, inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alameen. My salat, my sacrifice, my life, and my death is for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. Is this pleasing to Allah? Alhamdulillah. If it's not, stay away. It's a very simple rule, right?
I use this as a reminder to myself, because obviously I'm not perfect, and to others, that if you wouldn't say or do whatever it is in front of your brothers or fathers or sisters or mothers, then just have the image of them there present.
Yeah, that's a beautiful reminder. Like we said last time too, if you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, and someone you deeply respected were to walk in on you, how would you feel, right? That's a good human way to think about it and get us to have more taqwa. But at a higher level, inshallah, if we can get to it, then think about what if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was there, how would you feel? And then Allah Azza wa Jalla, Lord of the worlds, that created you and gave you your life and gave you the sustenance that you're using to sin against Him, right? He's watching you, He's listening to you. The angels, like how would you feel? We know for sure that Allah is watching, He's listening, He's hearing, He's seeing. We know for sure there's angels around us. Like we know, it's in our belief, but we forget, may Allah forgive us. But just try, the more we can try to get that mindset, inshallah, I think the easier it will be.
Going back to professionalism, say like you're in a business type environment, and so how about, for instance, after an interview you shake hands with the person who was interviewing and they happen to be the opposite sex. Is that wrong, right?
So it's time for salat right now. If you want to come back, inshallah, we can continue. Alright, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.